Welcome to Legal Briefs. I'm Wes Austin. I'm a lawyer keeping you updated on the latest legal news. All right, last week, the U.S. Supreme Court got rid of the rest of its election law cases. So these are the election law cases that have been filed by President Donald Trump and his allies in trying to overturn parts of the election. Anyway, the U.S. Supreme Court, with the one line, just denied review in these cases. I'm going to show you a list of the 8 cases that they denied review in, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Pennsylvania case, because that is the one that I thought would be a good one for the United States Supreme Court to review. Okay, that one. And 3 Supreme Court justices also agreed with me. We were talking about it one night on Facebook, and I'm just kidding. I'm not Facebook friends with any of them. Anyway, so here are the list of 8 cases. Again, so this was an order last week by the United States Supreme Court. All it said was certiorari denied, meaning they denied review. So 2 of these appeals were appealing the election results in Pennsylvania. That's the one we're going to talk about in just a minute. The other 6 were appealing election law results from Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. All right, so here are the listed cases that the Supreme Court denied review in. The Republican Party of Pennsylvania v. de Graffenried, Corman v. Pennsylvania Democratic Party, Wood v. Raffensperger, and that is Linwood, Ward v. Jackson, Kelly v. Pennsylvania, King v. Whitmer, and that is the Michigan Kraken case, Trump v. de Graffenried, and Trump v. Biden. All right, we are going to talk a little bit about the case in Pennsylvania. This is the one that I thought the U.S. Supreme Court could actually grant review in. I think some other people thought the same thing, and we had 3 Supreme Court justices who dissented from the denial of review. So we had some Supreme Court justices also who thought we should be reviewing this. So as you might recall, in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania legislature set a deadline for mail-in ballots. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court changed that, and they changed it. They added a 3-day extension onto the mail-in ballot deadline. And that is a constitutional issue because the Constitution says that the state legislatures are in charge of the manner of the elections. Okay, so the 2 constitutional clauses are the Elections Clause and the Electors Clause. Those are at issue here, and that's why they were trying to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court to try to get some input on that. So out of the Supreme Court justices, we had Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch. They all dissented from the denial of review in these cases. They thought that the Supreme Court should review those cases. Kavanaugh, he actually had said that they should review them back in the fall, as you might recall, but now he wasn't listed as dissenting, so he must be thinking it's moot now, so that's why his name wasn't with the justices that dissented. Justice Barrett, she's not listed here either. We have the liberal justices, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, who, let's face it, they didn't probably even look at any of this. So in Pennsylvania, Biden had 80,000 more votes than Trump. And in this legal case in Pennsylvania, there were only 10,000 votes at issue. So with this legal issue, it wouldn't have changed the results of the election. And in Justice Thomas's dissent, he actually addressed that. He said that we're really lucky that there weren't enough votes affected that would have actually changed the outcome of the election. And then he said, but we may not be so lucky in the future. Justice Thomas went on to say, by doing nothing, we invite further confusion and erosion of voter confidence. Our fellow citizens deserve better and expect more of us. So let's address the issue of mootness. Is it moot? Okay, what does that mean? Well, federal courts only have the power to hear cases if there's a case or controversy. And if there isn't a case or controversy, it's moot. So they don't have power to actually hear that case. So how would you make a case moot? I don't know. Here's one example. Let's say that there's an election, a presidential election, and lawsuits are filed, and it's appealed to the Supreme Court. Before before time that they have to actually certify the results. And let's just say the Supreme Court just sits on it for months until it's all over. It's moot now. Did you see how that happened? It wasn't moot, but if you don't do anything, it becomes moot. I mean, how can we fix that problem, you guys? Because if they can just always sit on it and not decide until it becomes moot, and then they say, hey, it's moot now. But there is an exception to this mootness doctrine, so that even if the case looks like it might be moot, the court can still hear this case and should. And we're going to look at the language from Justice Thomas's dissent, where he describes what this exception is. So federal courts still have authority to resolve cases that look like they are moot when the challenged action is in its duration too short to be fully litigated prior to cessation or expiration, and where there is a reasonable expectation that the same complaining party will be subject to the same action again. I think this situation fits perfectly. They didn't have enough time to fully litigate this before they had to actually certify the results. It was too short a time frame. And will this happen again? For sure. Yeah, we're absolutely going to have a court decide that they have more authority over how the elections should be conducted over the state legislatures. It's happened before. It's happened before the presidential election 2020, and it's going to happen again. So this would be a great time to have resolved this issue. And it clearly, I think, falls within this exception to mootness where they should have addressed it. Look, I really think the United States Supreme Court should have reviewed this Pennsylvania case. I'm not saying they should have ruled one way or the other. Just, it would have been really nice if we would have heard the United States Supreme Court speak on this issue to let everyone know, all right, is the state legislature in charge? Can the state court change the manner in which these elections are held? Is it constitutional? Because without this guidance now, people are going to be wondering again. And you know when it's going to happen? 2024, that's when it's going to happen. And we're going to have the exact same thing happen again. And people are going to be upset. I mean, nobody gets upset about presidential elections. Ask anybody. Go ahead, just ask a random person and see if they don't all of a sudden get super pissed off about the election, okay? And then voter integrity, voter confidence. Like, obviously, a lot of people are concerned about it. I don't know, is the United States Supreme Court asleep at the wheel? Like, are they just don't know what's going on, or what? Like, it would have helped if they commented on something. And this was perfect. It was clean. It was nice. It wasn't one of the more messy cases. There were a lot of cases that were trying to be appealed up to the Supreme Court that were clearly no way the Supreme Court was even going to touch any of those. But this one seemed like a pretty clean, nice issue for them to look at, review, and comment on. So I would just like to thank the United States Supreme Court for kicking this can down the road so that we can go through this all again in 2024. I'm sure that tensions won't be high. I'm sure everybody will be calm. I'm sure no one will think that the elections are unfair. And we won't have any disagreement on how the election should be carried out. So it's going to go really well. I do tip my hat to Justices Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch for wanting to grant review and give us some guidance. And I'm kind of disappointed in the other justices for not thinking that maybe some input would have been nice. It would have been nice, you guys. What are you doing? All right. Sorry, I'm getting pissed off. That's it. We'll see you guys next week.